What was meant to be a simple message of support has turned into a firestorm of controversy. Caitlin Clark showed class by wishing JuJu Watkins a strong recovery, but somehow, critics found a way to twist her words into an attack. Is this real outrage or just another attempt to tear Clark down? Let's dive into the madness. But before further proceeding in video, if you're new to the channel, please support by hit that subscribe button for more updates.
But Caitlin Clark did officially put out a statement on JuJu Watkins on her Twitter X feed, and it's a fantastic statement. But somehow, some way, people that can't stand Caitlin Clark are now turning this into something.
Caitlin Clark is facing yet another storm of criticism, but this time, it's not about her skills, her gameplay, or even her rivalries. No, this time, she's under fire for something so simple, so harmless, that it's almost laughable, showing support for an injured player. Yes, you read that right. Clark, known for her sportsmanship and leadership, took a moment to send well wishes to USC's JuJu Watkins after she suffered a tough injury during March Madness. A kind, thoughtful act, right? Something that should be encouraged in the world of sports? Well, not in today's outrage-driven culture. Instead of being seen as a moment of support, her post was torn apart, analyzed under a microscope, and turned into yet another controversy. And the reason? A single word. A word that no one in their right mind would consider offensive. But in the never-ending cycle of overreactions, here we are again.
Of course, last night during March Madness against Mississippi State, JuJu Watkins suffered a horrific injury. Did a video on it this morning. Obviously, we're all pulling for her, all right, to get better. I haven't seen any Caitlin Clark fans talking negatively about JuJu Watkins and that injury, or wishing it on her, or anything like that. I wish I could say the same for fans of the original WNBA fans when it comes to you-know-who, Caitlin Clark. And in fact, I think one of them made a live stream about...
Let's talk about the absolute madness that's happening right now. It all started during a high-stakes March Madness game when USC's JuJu Watkins went down with an injury. It was one of those moments that stops everything. The crowd goes quiet. Players freeze. No matter who you're cheering for, no one wants to see this happen. Caitlin Clark, being the class act she is, did what any decent competitor would do. She sent out a message of encouragement. She hopped on social media and wrote, "Sending all my thoughts and prayers to JuJu. Kid will come back stronger than ever." That's it. A simple, positive message. The kind of thing athletes do all the time. Nothing controversial, nothing disrespectful, just one player lifting up another during a tough moment. And yet, within minutes, the backlash started. The internet went wild. Not over the message itself, not over Clark's well wishes, but over a single word: kid. Why are you calling her a kid? You're barely older than her. One person ranted, "You're not a 20-year veteran, check yourself." Another scolded. And then, it got even weirder. Some people actually started claiming that calling someone kid had racial undertones, that it was condescending, that it was somehow offensive. Are we serious right now? Forget the fact that countless athletes use kid as a term of encouragement. Forget that Clark clearly meant no harm. Forget that this entire conversation shouldn't even be happening. Because once the internet decides it's time for outrage, nothing else matters. This is what happens when people are desperate to be mad at someone. They latch onto anything, even a completely harmless, well-intended message, and twist it into something it was never meant to be. And the worst part, this always happens to Caitlin Clark. No matter what she does, someone somewhere is waiting for an excuse to tear her down.
One thing I'm going to tell you about the old WNBA fans or the new WNBA fans that are activists that have joined for the culture war, because there's two separate factions. There's the old ones that, been around and just laboring, and nothing was ever popping until Caitlin came along.
So let's get this straight. Caitlin Clark offers support to an injured player, and somehow, someway, that turns into a controversy. People are really out here saying she was being disrespectful, condescending, even insensitive. This is beyond ridiculous. At this point, it's obvious what's happening. People aren't mad because Clark did something wrong. They're mad because they want to be mad. They're looking for something, anything to twist against her. And honestly, it's exhausting. This is sports. This is competition. This is supposed to be a world where athletes lift each other up, not where people tear them apart over imaginary issues. If we've reached a point where even a message of encouragement can be turned into fuel for hate, what's next? Are we going to start critiquing the font she used? The number of heart emojis? It's insanity, and it's getting old. The reality is this. Caitlin Clark is damned if she does, damned if she doesn't. If she hadn't said anything at all, people would have accused her of being cold or uncaring. But the moment she offers support, she gets shredded for it. So here's the real question: what will they come for next? Because let's be honest, the people who need to hate her, they'll always find something, even when there's nothing there at all. The sheer speed with which some commenters manage to inject race into what should have been a non-issue is as predictable as it is exhausting. One person outright claimed, "I think JuJu will have a problem with you calling her kid," despite having zero evidence that Watkins herself took any offense. They're not reacting to reality. They're manufacturing outrage, putting words in Watkins' mouth to fit their own agenda. And let's not ignore the timing. While Watkins is facing a devastating injury, these so-called fans aren't focusing on her recovery. Instead, they're exploiting the situation to launch yet another attack on Caitlin Clark. It's not just unfair, it's outright disrespectful to both athletes. Let's be crystal clear about something. Kid is a widely used term of endearment in sports, not an insult. Coaches, teammates, and competitors alike across all ages, races, and levels of play use it as a sign of familiarity and respect. There was nothing condescending about Clark's words. She wasn't lecturing Watkins, wasn't talking down to her, she was offering encouragement during a tough time. Yet here we are, witnessing a masterclass in twisting an innocent message into something sinister. This is nothing new for Clark. Ever since she stepped onto the national stage, every word she says, every action she takes, and even her expressions have been scrutinized to absurd levels. There seems to be an entire industry dedicated to misinterpreting her, fueled by people who are determined to tear her down. The mental gymnastics required to turn a supportive comment into an attack? Absolutely Olympic level. And let's address the unspoken truth: some of this isn't even about basketball. As one commenter bluntly pointed out, for certain critics, it's about Clark's race and sexuality. That's an uncomfortable reality, but there's truth in it. Clark represents something that some segments of the WNBA's existing fanbase feel threatened by, and they are actively looking for reasons to vilify her. This isn't just speculation, it's a pattern. From the moment Clark started smashing records and drawing unprecedented attention to women's basketball, there's been a vocal minority that sees her success as a personal affront. Ironically, these are often the same people who claim to champion women's sports and demand more visibility for female athletes. Yet, when a player finally arrives who brings historic levels of attention to the game, they're the first to try to diminish her. And the double standard? Impossible to ignore. Imagine if the roles were reversed. If Watkins had called Clark kid in a message of support, would anyone have batted an eye? Of course not. The outrage here isn't genuine, it's selective, motivated by an existing bias against Clark. She's held to an impossibly high standard where even her most harmless comments are weaponized against her. Meanwhile, when Clark has been on the receiving end of actual unsportsmanlike behavior, including physical targeting on the court, these same critics were silent or worse, justified it as just part of the game. The hypocrisy is staggering, but beyond the sheer unfairness of Clark's treatment, what's truly frustrating is how this nonsense distracts from what really matters: JuJu Watkins' health and recovery. Instead of rallying around a young athlete facing adversity, these critics are hijacking the moment to further their anti-Clark narrative. And let's be honest, Watkins herself has given no indication that she was even remotely offended. This isn't about defending her. It's about exploiting her situation for the sake of an ongoing vendetta against Clark. And here's the impossible situation Clark is in: if she hadn't acknowledged Watkins' injury, the same critics would have accused her of being indifferent or self-absorbed. But since she did show support, they're dissecting her words, looking for the tiniest possible offense. No matter what she does, she loses in their eyes. This level of scrutiny isn't just unfair, it's unsustainable. Imagine living with the knowledge that every single thing you say or do will be twisted into an attack against you. And the worst part, it's not just damaging to Clark, it's damaging to women's basketball as a whole. The WNBA is experiencing a surge in popularity, with record-breaking viewership and attendance, largely because of the excitement Clark is bringing to the sport. This should be a golden era for women's basketball, a time of celebration. Instead, certain fans and even some within the league seem determined to make it as hostile as possible. Think about the message this sends to new fans, young kids just discovering women's basketball through Clark. They come in excited, only to see a toxic atmosphere where their favorite player is relentlessly attacked over nothing. How many of them will simply tune out? How many potential lifelong fans are being driven away by this bitterness? And what about the athletes considering their futures? What does it say to the next generation of talent when they see that the moment you become too popular, the attacks start rolling in? That no matter how much you accomplish, no matter how respectful you are, a segment of the basketball world will resent your success. That's not exactly an enticing prospect for players weighing their professional options. Yet, through all of this, the silence from the WNBA itself is deafening. The league, which should be fostering a positive and welcoming environment, has done little to address the toxic atmosphere surrounding its biggest new star. How long can they afford to ignore it? Because make no mistake, this isn't just a Clark issue. This is a WNBA issue. A sport on the rise can't afford to alienate its biggest draw, nor can it afford to let petty, manufactured controversies overshadow the talent and competition that should be front and center. At the end of the day, this was never about the word kid. It was never about Caitlin Clark being disrespectful. It's about a group of people who feel threatened by the rapid growth and change Clark represents. They're not protecting the league, they're gatekeeping it. But here's the truth they refuse to accept. The game is growing, whether they like it or not. The WNBA is playing a dangerous game. By standing by while a loud but small faction hijacks the narrative, the league risks alienating the very audience it should be embracing. Caitlin Clark's meteoric rise presents an incredible opportunity, yet instead of celebrating what she brings to the sport, certain voices are determined to tear her down. This relentless scrutiny isn't confined to social media. Entire YouTube channels and podcasts exist solely to dissect Clark's every move, twisting even the most innocuous moments into fuel for outrage. It's become an industry feeding off negativity, fueling division, and overshadowing what should be an exciting new era for women's basketball. What makes this even more absurd? Clark and JuJu Watkins could be the faces of one of the greatest rivalries in WNBA history, one that could captivate fans for years. Instead of embracing that potential, critics are manufacturing conflict out of thin air, distorting reality to fit their own agenda. Sadly, this isn't new. Trailblazing female athletes Billie Jean King, Serena Williams, and countless others have all faced backlash simply for shifting the status quo. Whenever a woman shakes up the game and draws unprecedented attention, some fans and even competitors lash out, as if success itself is a threat. Let's set the record straight. Caitlin Clark has done nothing but show respect for her peers, including Watkins. She's demonstrated sportsmanship, poise, and a love for the game. The so-called controversy surrounding her is nothing more than a fabricated excuse to justify a pre-existing bias against her, and as the WNBA season looms, this is just a preview of what's to come. The physical targeting Clark endured in college will likely escalate in the pros. And if her simple words of encouragement to Watkins can be twisted into an attack, the off-court harassment will be just as relentless. Even more concerning is the impact this could have on Clark's game. Her passion and expressiveness make her thrilling to watch. But if every reaction, every celebration, and every word is weaponized against her, will she start to suppress what makes her special? That wouldn't just be a loss for Clark, it would be a loss for the sport. And here's the real question. What do these critics actually want from her? She's elevated women's basketball, conducted herself with grace, and uplifted fellow players. What more could she possibly do to satisfy those determined to bring her down? The truth is, nothing will ever be enough because the problem isn't what she does. It's what she represents. She's a game changer, and for some, that's too much to handle. At the end of the day, this isn't about one word, it's about people twisting Clark's every move into controversy. Let's focus on what truly matters, supporting athletes and growing the game. Drop your thoughts in the comments.